How was your day? Maybe you were asked to carry something you didn't choose. Something heavy. And you carried it anyway, without anyone noticing. There was a horse born carrying the weight of all 9 worlds. His name was Sleipnir, son of Loki, Steed of Odin in Norse mythology. If today had a little of that, he knows exactly where you've been. You don't have to prove anything tonight, just rest. And listen. This story starts in motion, where the ground is cracking beneath 8 impossible hooves. The gates of hell are closed. No living thing has ever passed through and come back. But the horse is running toward them anyway. 8 hooves, no hesitation. His rider is Hermod, Odin's son, the only god willing to make this ride. Behind them, Asgard in grief. Ahead, everything that has ever died. Why is Hermod here? Why would any god ride into death? The answer starts long before this moment, long before the horse was born. It starts with a bargain. The kind where someone offers something impossible, and the gods, desperate, say yes. That moment lives in every story about what happens when we want something too badly. The gods needed a wall. Asgard was exposed. The wars had torn it open. And into that need walked a builder with an offer that seemed too good. It always. This is what we do here. Every week, one story. One night. Something ancient that still has something to say. Get comfortable now. Adjust your pillow, find your warmth. If you drift off before the end, Sleipnir has carried sleeping riders before. He won't let you fall. This is only the beginning of Sleipnir's story. The part most people never reach. That's still ahead. But not tonight. Tonight, just this. If tonight felt like something, subscribe. We'll be here next week. Another story, another night like this. Now back to ours. The builders offer 1 winter. 1 season to complete Asgard's wall. If finished by the first day of summer, he would receive Freya, the sun, and the moon. The gods laughed. 1 winter impossible. No one could build a wall that size in 1 season. They agreed, with 1 condition. He must work alone. His condition, he could use his horse. Svadilfari. The gods agreed. Loki agreed. None of them knew what that horse could do. Winter came. The wall rose faster than any god had imagined. 3 days before summer, it was nearly done. The gods looked at each other. They had made a terrible mistake. They turned to Loki. You made this deal, they said. You fix it. Loki looked at the wall, at the horse, and agreed. What Loki did next is the reason we have Sleipnir, and the reason the gods never forgot the price of a bargain made in desperation. Long before Sleipnir was born, there was a wall, or rather, the absence of one. Asgard stood open undefended, cracked by the wars that had shaken every realm. The wars between gods and giants had done it. Years of fighting, and when the fighting stopped, the walls didn't rebuild themselves. The gods were tired. They had won, but winning had left them exposed in a way losing never quite had. Maybe you know that feeling. You got through something hard, and then, in the quiet after, you realized how much it had cost. Odin called a council. The great hall filled with gods, Thor, Freyr, all of them. And the question on the table, how do we fix this? Rebuild. Yes, but stone costs time they might not have. The giants would hear of the damage. Giants always heard. And then a stranger walked in. Unannounced, without invitation. No one stopped him, which should have been the first sign. He had a proposal. He could build the wall, the whole wall, in a single winter. Strong enough that no giant, no army, nothing could breach it. His price, Freya, and the sun, and the moon. The gods went very quiet. The silence lasted. Then someone started arguing. Then everyone was arguing. And through the noise, Loki was thinking. Loki spoke. Let him try, he said. 1 winter, but alone, just the builder and his horse. No other help. If he fails, we owe him nothing. The gods agreed. It felt safe. 1 man, 1 horse, 1 winter. Even if he came close, he would fail. Loki had made sure of it. What none of them had fully counted on was Svadilfari, the horse. The builder's one condition, and the reason everything went wrong. Svadilfari was not a normal horse. He could haul blocks that would take a dozen men. He worked through the night. He didn't tire. He didn't stop. 3 days. A week. The gods watched the wall climb. Some of them stopped watching. That was a mistake. By midwinter, the wall was more than half done. The pace had not slowed. The gods did the math. Their certainty began to crack. 3 days before summer, one section of wall left, and the builder was not slowing down. Freya was the first to say it. "We cannot let this happen." The others agreed. But what they did next would define everything that followed. "You made this deal," they told him. "You will fix it. If the builder finishes, your life is forfeit." Loki understood. He always understood. That didn't make it easier. He left that night alone, into the forest outside Asgard. What he became there, that's the part most people don't expect. Loki was a shapeshifter. Not just in legend, in the deep literal sense. He could become other things he had before. That night, he became a mare. He ran out of the forest toward the building site, toward Svadilfari, and the great stallion, holding his last load for the night, stopped. Here's the part that matters. Svadilfari left his load, left the builder, left the wall 3 days from completion, and followed the mare into the dark. The builder watched his horse vanish. He searched, he called. Svadilfari didn't come back that night, or the next, or the next. When summer came, the wall was not done. The builder had failed. The bargain was void. And somewhere in the Norse forest, something was about to be born. The builder, when he understood what had happened, was furious. His rage was too large for a mortal contractor. And that was when the gods understood what he really was. He was a giant, a mountain giant, Hrimthur's, who had walked into Asgard wearing patience like a coat. He had nearly won everything. Thor killed him. One swing of Mjolnir. The mountain giant fell, and the gods stood in the wreckage of a plan that had almost destroyed them. The wall stood, mostly finished, strong enough. The price had not been paid, and in the forest, the mare was still missing. Months passed. The gods had other matters. The wall was done. The giant was dead. Loki, in whatever form, had not returned. And then Loki came back, carrying something, a foal, gray, dappled, long-legged, already remarkable, and, if you counted, 8-legged. The gods came to look. No one spoke. 8 legs, moving in perfect rhythm. Each leg placed as if the ground itself was a choice, not a requirement. Loki gave him to Odin. No explanation, no speech. He placed the lead rope in Odin's hand and stepped back. That was all. There's a version of this where we pause and explain what Loki felt. We won't. You know what it is to give something you made, something that cost you, to someone else. Sleipnir grew. All foals do, but not like this. He grew the way mountains grow, slowly and entirely, until what was there before was simply smaller. He was faster than any horse in any realm. This was not disputed. He could run on water as easily as land, on air as easily as water. Odin rode him across all 9 realms, not occasionally, constantly. Sleipnir was not a ceremonial horse. He was the All-Father's road. He carried Odin to battles he could not win alone, to meetings with giants who would not receive a god who arrived on foot, to the edges of things only Odin was meant to see. And Sleipnir never complained. This is not a small thing. He had not chosen this life. He had been born into it, handed over before he knew what it meant. There's something in that worth staying with. A creature born from a desperate bargain, a trickster's sacrifice, a giant's ambition. And it became this, the greatest horse that ever ran. That's the part that stays with you. Not what you were made from, what you became. The people who first told Sleipnir's story lived in a world where shape-shifting was not metaphor. It was literal. Gods could become animals. Animals could carry gods. The boundary was thin. Loki is often called the trickster. But in the oldest tellings, he's something stranger. Not evil, not good, but necessary. The one who causes the problem and then solves it. Usually at cost. What he did to save Asgard cost him something no myth fully names. He gave the gods a horse and walked away. The Old Norse listeners understood what that silence meant. 8-legged horses appear in Norse tradition beyond Sleipnir. They were associated with death, with the horses that carry the dead. Sleipnir was not merely fast, he was a threshold creature. He could go where other horses could not because he was made of the impossible. That was always the point. The gods didn't need a fast horse. They needed a horse that could cross what couldn't be crossed. For years, or what passes for years among gods, Sleipnir carried Odin, over Midgard in disguise, through Jotunheim, along the routes of Yggdrasil in the cold dark. Odin was not an easy rider. He went to the places that cost something. He went to learn. He always went to learn, and Sleipnir took him there every time. They say Odin hung on Yggdrasil for 9 days to win the runes. Sleipnir was not there for that. Some prices are paid alone. But he was there after. The relationship between a horse and its rider is not simple. It never is. Odin didn't just use Sleipnir. He depended on him. That's a different thing. Among all the things Odin possessed, his ravens, his spear, his knowledge, his wolves, Sleipnir was the one that carried him. That matters. You can set down a spear. You cannot set down a road. There came a day when someone else needed Sleipnir. Not Odin. Someone who had never ridden him. And the road they needed, no other horse could travel. Baldur was dead, the most beloved of the gods, gone. The dreaming god, the bright one, the one the Norse most wanted to keep, gone. He had fallen to a spear of mistletoe, the one thing that had not sworn to protect him. Someone had known that. Someone had arranged it. The gods sent Baldur's body to Hel, the realm of the quiet dead. And then, someone asked the question that changes everything. Could he come back? Frigg spoke. She had heard it said that Hel would release Baldur if every creature in all the worlds wept for him. Every creature. Not most, every. But first, someone had to go to Hel and ask. Had to ride down there and speak to the queen of the dead. Had to go alive into a place the living do not enter. Hermod volunteered. He was Odin's son, the swift one, the messenger. If anyone could make this journey, it was him. The gods looked at Odin. Odin looked at Sleipnir. Odin gave Hermod his horse. No hesitation. He placed the bridle in his son's hand and stepped back. Just as Loki had once placed a rope in his hand, the gesture circled back. Hermod had ridden horses his whole life. He knew what he was doing. But as he mounted Sleipnir, he felt something different. This wasn't a horse, this was a road. They left that night, down through Midgard, down through the dark realms beneath it. 9 nights of riding through valleys so deep, so dark, that Hermod could not see his own hands. There was a river, Jarl, the loudest river in all the realms, they say, noisy with something between wind and grief. A bridge over it, guarded. Mutta de Gud, the guardian, asked Hermod who he was. The dead who had crossed yesterday had shaken the bridge less than this single rider. He was clearly not dead. What was he doing here? He was looking for Baldur. He needed to speak to Hel. Mitigud listened. She pointed north and down. Sleipnir had already turned in that direction before she finished speaking. The gates were closed. Of course they were. No living thing had ever passed through. No horse in any myth had ever stood at those gates with breath still in its lungs. Sleipnir backed up, 6 strides, he gathered. And then he jumped, cleared the gates entirely, landed inside Hel with all 8 hooves. No one had ever done that. No one has since. And it was quiet. That's what the myths say. Not horrible, not fire, just very, very quiet. And cold. The way cold is when warmth has simply stopped. Hermod found Baldur, sitting in the highest seat in Hel's hall, honored even here. Baldur looked at his brother. The look of someone who had made their peace with where they were. Hermod slept there that night. One night in the realm of the dead, waiting to speak to Hel in the morning. Sleipnir waited. The horse does not sleep in Hel, the horse waits. Morning, or what Hel calls morning. Hermod approached Hel herself, the half-living, half-dead queen of the quiet realm. He asked for Baldur's return. Hel's answer was not no. It was a condition. Let every creature in all 9 realms weep for Balder, she said. Every creature. If that happens, he can go. Hermod thanked her, went back to Balder. Balder sent gifts for the gods, tokens from the dead to the living, a gesture across the distance. Then Hermod mounted Sleipnir. The gates of hell opened for them leaving. That's the thing about hell. It doesn't keep you by force. It keeps you because there is simply nowhere else to go. 9 nights back up through the dark valleys, through Jol, through the frost, back toward light. Hermod rode, Sleipnir ran. The dead stayed dead. When Hermod rode back into Asgard, the gods gathered to hear. He told them everything. Hell's condition. Every creature. Every tear. The gods sent messengers across all 9 realms. Every creature wept. Metal wept. The trees wept. Everything in all 9 realms opened to grief, except one. A giantess named Loki, who refused. So KK was Loki. The gods understood eventually. One refusal, one dry eye. And Balder stayed in hell. And the world moved toward Ragnarok. But that is another story. Tonight, we stay with the horse. Let's go back. Before Hermod's ride. Before Balder's death. Back to the beginning of Sleipnir's life as Odin's horse. The long years of the road. Odin didn't rush him. This surprises people. The All-Father, impatient, hungry for knowledge, always moving, waited. He let Sleipnir grow at his own pace. Maybe he understood. This horse had not chosen him. The least Odin could do was give him time to understand what he was before asking him to carry it all. The first time Odin rode him, the gods say the ground shook. Not from weight, from speed. 8 hooves struck the earth and the earth remembered it. They traveled Midgard first. Odin disguised. The wanderer's hat, the gray cloak, the staff. No one knew the rider. But they noticed the horse. 8 legs. People counted twice. Always twice. And then they stepped back from the road and let the rider pass without asking questions. There are stories, small ones, of people who helped Odin on these Midgard travels, who were kind to the wanderer without knowing who he was. Sleipnir was always how those stories ended. Odin used these journeys to gather knowledge. He listened. He asked questions in taverns and at crossroads. And then he rode Sleipnir home with everything he'd learned. Knowledge was Odin's obsession, not power. Knowledge. He had given an eye for it. Would give more. Sleipnir was the vehicle of that hunger. Willing or not. They went to Jotunheim, the realm of the giants. Odin dressed as a wanderer, Sleipnir moving through passes no mortal horse could navigate. The giants knew Odin. Even disguised, a one-eyed wanderer on a horse with 8 legs was not subtle. But they spoke with him anyway. That was the custom. Even enemies honored the road. In Jotunheim, Odin traded riddles for knowledge. He had done this before. He always came prepared to lose something in exchange for more. Sleipnir waited outside the giants' hall, always outside. What did the giants think of Sleipnir? The myths don't say directly. But they never tried to take him. Perhaps they recognized what he was. Not just a horse, but a debt already paid, a life already given. They traveled to the edge of the world, to places the Norse maps ran out of words. Sleipnir went where the road became suggestion, and then nothing at all. He ran on the sea. The Norse sources mention this plainly, without amazement. Of course he ran on water. 8 hooves on the surface. The sea accepting his weight the way it accepts nothing else. The air was the same. When the road ran out, when the sea ended and there was only sky, Sleipnir kept running. The sky held him. The sky always held him. There is a word in Norse for this. Sleipnir ran the sky road, the path between worlds that has no surface. He was the only one who could. You've been on a road that felt like it had no surface too. Maybe you know what that's like. Moving through something with no ground under you, just momentum and the decision to keep going. Sleipnir never stopped to question the road. This is the part that matters. He didn't need the surface to be certain before he put a hoof down. The ravens, Hugin and Munin, often flew beside them, thought and memory, out across the 9 realms every day to gather what the world was doing. They always returned to Sleipnir's rider. What the ravens brought back sometimes made Odin go still in the saddle. Bad news from Midgard, a king about to fall. A prophecy fulfilling itself before he could intervene. Sleipnir felt these moments. He didn't understand the raven's language, but he understood Odin's weight. A god thinking carries differently than a god riding. There were battles. Of course there were. Odin rode Sleipnir into the thick of things when he had to. The horse did not balk. He ran toward what other horses ran from. Other horses heard the noise and smelled the blood and turned. Sleipnir heard the noise and smelled the blood and ran faster. This was not trained. This was who he was. He was born in the dark, from a desperate bargain, from a god who had become something else, entirely to save people who would never fully understand the cost. Fear wasn't in him. It hadn't been put in. After battles, Odin would dismount and stand beside him. Just stand there. The myths don't say what passed between them. Some things don't need recording. The road between worlds was Sleipnir's true home. Not Asgard. Not any stable. The moving, the between, the place where nothing was fixed. That's where he lived. Maybe that's familiar too. Not belonging to one place. Feeling most yourself in transit, between things, between one version of your life and the next. Sleipnir was the greatest horse in all 9 realms. This is not metaphor. The Norse myths are specific about it. No horse surpassed him. Not in speed, not in endurance, not in the roads he could travel. But the myths also never say he was proud. There is no story of Sleipnir refusing a lesser road because it was beneath him. He ran where he was needed. He carried Odin to the well of wisdom, to the hanging tree, to the battlefield where the Valkyries gathered the fallen. Each road different, each one taken without hesitation. Yggdrasil, the world tree, the ash that holds everything together. Sleipnir stood at its base more than once, waiting while Odin climbed into the mysteries above. The horse at the root of everything. The tree had 3 wells at its roots, one for the Norns, the Fates, one for the Frost Giants, one for Mimir, the wisest being alive, keeper of the deepest knowledge. Odin came to Mimir's well and asked to drink. The price 1 eye. He paid it without argument. Sleipnir was tied to the tree, while the god gave up his sight to see more clearly. When Odin came back to his horse, he had 1 eye. He mounted without speaking. They rode away. The tree's roots were wet with something that wasn't rain. There is no record of Sleipnir reacting to the change. Horses know their riders by weight and seat and breath. Odin's seat hadn't changed. The weight was the same, but something in the breath was different. Odin hanged himself from Yggdrasil 9 days later. The runes, he needed the runes, the symbols of power and fate. The price was 9 days of hanging, no food, no water. Sleipnir was not there for that. Some sacrifices are made without witnesses. On the 9th day, Odin fell from the tree and gathered the runes and lived. And Sleipnir was there when he came back. He was always there when Odin came back. This is not a small thing to be. To be the one who waits. To be the road that's always ready. Here's the part the myths never make obvious. Sleipnir carried Odin's grief too. Every knowing has a weight. Every road taken toward wisdom costs the one who travels it. The horse felt all of that. The Valkyries rode. The path to the battlefield where the chosen dead were gathered. Sleipnir traveled it with Odin. The horse that could enter hell could certainly enter a battlefield after the fighting stopped. Odin chose which warriors went to Valhalla. Sleipnir walked the field while he chose. If that sounds easy, it wasn't. Choosing who gets to continue is never easy. Sleipnir stepped carefully among the fallen, 8 legs finding the spaces between. He didn't trample the dead. That was not nothing. Years went by. Decades, maybe. The Norse gods existed in a different time than mortals, stretched and compressed by fate rather than seasons. Sleipnir ran through all of it. He didn't age the way mortal horses age. He was divine, or close enough to it. His 8 legs kept the same rhythm year after year. Odin aged. Not obviously, not the way mortals age. But the weight of knowing accumulated. The eye he'd given up looked back from everything he read. The prophecies were accumulating too. Odin knew how it ended. He had seen it, at Mimir's well, in the runes, in the raven's whispers. Ragnarok was coming. He never told Sleipnir. Of course he didn't. Horses don't traffic in prophecy. But Odin rode differently after. A little more present. A little more willing to stop and notice things. This moment is easy to miss, but it changes everything that follows. A god who knows the end, riding his horse through a world that doesn't yet know its ending. Each rode a kind of gift. The Norse buried their most honored dead with horses. This was not symbolic. The horse was practical. You needed a way to travel in what came next. The best horse went with the best warrior. They believed the road to death was a road. Literally, 9 nights of riding, 9 rivers to cross, a bridge, a gate. This was geography, not poetry. So when Hermod borrowed Sleipnir, the Norse audience understood something we might miss. The best horse for the death road was a horse that had already crossed it. Sleipnir was not chosen because he was fast. He was chosen because he had been there. Horses in Norse tradition were also associated with Odin specifically. His 2 wolves, his 2 ravens, his 2 horses. Sleipnir. And a lesser, mentioned second. The animals that extended his reach beyond what a god alone could achieve. Picture the storyteller 3,000 years ago reaching this part of the tale. The listeners knew horses. They had buried people with horses. When they heard Sleipnir's name, they understood what it meant to have a horse that could go anywhere. That was not a small thing to be given. We return to Hermod's ride. He has emerged from Hell. He has carried Hell's condition back to Asgard. Every creature must weep for Baldur. Every single one. The gods sent messengers. They traveled every road in all 9 realms. They asked every creature, every stone, every tree, every animal, every river, to weep for Baldur. Everything wept. Metal wept. Stone wept. The roots of Yggdrasil wept. The frost of Niflheim thawed in grief. The world had not done this before. It has not done it since. And then a giantess named Okike refused. Dry-eyed, still unmoved. Baldur had done nothing for her in life, she said. Let hell keep him. One refusal, one dry eye. In all the weeping world, one creature who would not. And the condition was every creature. So Baldur stayed in hell. The gods understood eventually that Okk had been Loki. The trickster in one more shape, one more transformation, this time not to save but to break. What happened to Loki after? That's a different story. A hard one. Tonight we only note. The person who gave the god Sleipnir was also the one who kept Baldur in hell. Both things were true of him. The gods mourned Baldur. Asgard was quieter after. Some light had gone out that no one knew how to replace, and into that grief, life continued, as it always does. Sleipnir was returned to Odin. The horse stood in the courtyard. Odin came out and looked at him for a long time before mounting. What passed between them? The myths are quiet on that. Odin mounted. They rode. The 8 hooves found the road. The ravens flew alongside. And the world, still grieving, kept turning. Stay with this. It matters before the end. Sleipnir carried Odin through grief, through loss, through the knowledge of what was coming. The horse did not stop, neither did the god. Odin began preparing for Ragnarok, the end of the gods. He knew it was coming. The ravens had told him, the runes had shown him. The well had given him the shape of it. He gathered the Einherjar. The great warriors brought to Valhalla. He strengthened Asgard's remaining defenses. He rode more often, as if storing up the roads before they ran out. Sleipnir was part of those preparations, not as a weapon, as a necessity. When Ragnarok came, Odin would need to ride into it, and only one horse could carry him there. The prophecy named the opponents. Odin would face Fenrir, the great wolf, the one the gods had feared since his birth, the one they had bound. Who would break free at Ragnarok's beginning? Odin knew he would die. He knew Fenrir would swallow him. He prepared anyway. This is the thing about Odin. He moved toward the things he knew would destroy him. Sleipnir was always the vehicle of that movement. The days before Ragnarok, the Fimbulwinter. 3 years of winter, no summer between them. The world going cold and hard. The gods feeling the approach of the end. Odin rode Sleipnir through the Fimbulwinter. What he was looking for, or confirming, the myths don't say. Some knowledge you seek not to change it, but to be ready for it. Sleipnir's hooves on the frozen ground made a different sound in the Fimbulwinter. Not the thunder of summer gallop, something quieter, measured, as if the horse too understood what was coming. The night before Ragnarok, if there was such a night, if the end had a before, Odin stood beside Sleipnir in the darkness. No ravens, no wolves, just the god and the horse. There are no words recorded for this. The myths don't give Odin a speech or a prayer. They just note he was there. And the horse was there. And then morning came. Ragnarok began, not with a whisper, with everything at once. Fenrir's chains broke. The Midgard serpent rose from the ocean. The fire giant Surtur marched from the south. Odin mounted Sleipnir. The horse stood steady under him. The end of all things around them, and the horse, stood steady. He rode toward Fenrir, the great wolf, massive beyond measure, jaws open wide enough to swallow a god. Odin rode toward it. The wolf swallowed Odin. The prophecy was exact. Odin was gone, and Sleipnir was riderless for the first time. Avenged Odin. The silent god, the one who had barely spoken in all the ages of Asgard. He killed Fenrir. The wolf fell, and the battle continued to its end. The world ended. Surt's fire consumed it. The seas rose and covered everything, and then quiet, the same quiet as Hell's halls. The quiet after the loudest thing imaginable. But the Norse myths don't end there. They never did. A new world rose from the sea. Green, silent, the rivers still running, the earth still good. Some gods survived. Baldur returned from Hell, the condition of the new world allowing what the old world could not. He came back, the bright god, back in a world bright enough to hold him. The myths don't say what happened to Sleipnir in the new world. This silence is not an oversight. The Norse left certain things unnamed. What you don't say lives longer than what you do. We choose to believe he ran. The sky was new. The roads were new. No path had been traveled yet, no route between worlds had been established. The greatest horse in all the realms had everything still to discover. That's the part this story was always building toward. Not the death. Not the end. But the horse that kept running after everything that knew him was gone. He was born without a choice. He served without complaint. He carried the heaviest rider through the most terrible roads, and when the roads ended, he made new ones. Maybe you know that feeling too. You've been to some version of hell. You've carried things you didn't choose. You're still here. You're still moving. What you were made from doesn't define you. What you carry doesn't define you. What defines you is that you kept going, and where you went next. Sleipnir ran because running was what he was. Not because someone asked him to. Not for a reward. Not because the road was easy. Because the 8 legs wanted the road. That was enough. Here's what the Norse knew that we sometimes forget. A story doesn't end when the world ends. The best ones start again. Different, but connected. Sleipnir is the proof of this. He was the greatest horse that ever ran. He was born from the world's most desperate bargain. He carried a god through everything. Battles, grief, wisdom, the knowledge of endings. And here is the part the myths never quite say, but mean with everything they have. The horse that went to hell came back. The horse that carried the end kept running after it. Some things that seem like limits are just the next road. You've been at those gates. Maybe not hell's, but yours. The thing that looked final. The thing that looked like the end of the road. And you're here, which means you jumped. Sleep now. Sleipnir is still out there somewhere, running the new world's sky. Roads making the paths between worlds that haven't been mapped yet. He'll be running when you wake up too. We pause here, at the edge of the new world. The story has come through fire and sea and silence, and emerged. But something remains unresolved. The horse is running, and no one is watching. This is the turning point every good story has, not the ending. The moment after the ending, when you realize the story isn't over. Something has changed. Something new is required. What is a horse without a rider? What is a road without a destination? These aren't sad questions. They're the questions the new world is asking. The old world had a purpose for him. He was Odin's. He carried the All-Father. He went where he was needed. The new world has not yet named what it needs from him. That's the new threat, and the new freedom. Let's look at this more carefully. Sleipnir was born from sacrifice. He was given away before he knew what he was. He carried a rider who was always going toward his own death. Now the death has happened. The rider is gone. The destination fulfilled. What does a horse built for impossible roads do when the roads no longer lead anywhere that was promised? The answer the Norse myth gives is not spoken. It's in the hoofprints. He ran, not toward anything named, not in service of a purpose assigned by someone else. He ran because running was true. This is where the second half of Sleipnir's meaning lies. Not in the service, not in the great deeds. In this after everything, he was still himself, still the horse, still running. What persists in you after the thing you were supposed to carry is gone? When the purpose that defined you completes itself? What's left? That's not loss, that's arrival. The new world needed mapping. Every world does. And the horse that had mapped the old world's sky, roads knew something essential. You don't wait for a map, you make the map by going. Baldur was in the new world. The bright god returned as Frigg had hoped, as Hel's condition had promised if everything aligned. He was there, and he had never ridden Sleipnir. There is no recorded meeting between Baldur and Sleipnir in the new world. But the Norse knew both stories. They knew the horse that went to Hel to bring Baldur back, failed to bring him back, and that both of them made it anyway. What Hermod's ride accomplished wasn't Baldur's return. It was the proof that someone would go, that love would ride into death and ask, that the asking mattered even when the answer was not yet, and Sleipnir had carried it, all of it, the bargain, the birth, the service, the ride to death. The riderless standing at Ragnarok, and he was still running. Here is the new threat, and it's a quiet one. The risk is forgetting that a story this old, a horse this remarkable, could fade into background, could become a footnote to the gods who rode him. We're looking directly. That's the second half of this. Not just Sleipnir's journeys, but Sleipnir himself. What it means to be the horse, not the rider. We've been on Odin's perspective this whole time. The god who needed the road. What about the road itself? What about the one who became the way between worlds? Sleipnir never asked for the god's problems. He was handed them. He was handed everything. The bargain's cost, Odin's hunger, Hermod's grief, the weight of Ragnarok's approach. And yet, no source says he refused. No myth records a morning when Sleipnir would not come to the gate. He was not broken by what he carried, he was shaped by it. There's a difference between being used and being essential. Sleipnir was essential. The roads between worlds existed because he ran them. Without him, they were just distance. Distance is just distance. Roads are made by the going. Sleipnir understood this the way he understood the sky beneath his hooves. Not as knowledge, but as nature. In the new world, he was doing this again. Making the roads from nothing. Every gallop a road's beginning. Every route a new connection between what had been separate. The new gods, Baldur and the others who survived and the new ones who would come, would inherit these roads. They would travel them without always knowing who made them. This is not a small inheritance. The one who makes the roads that others travel. That person, that horse, that force, is rarely the one remembered in the songs. But the world would not hold together without them. You know someone like this. Maybe you are this. The one who holds the shape of things while others move through it. The road that other people's stories travel on. It's not nothing to be the road. It's not less than being the rider. Ask the rider who had no horse. Ask Hermod, who could not have gone to hell on any other mount. The road enables the journey. The horse enables the hero. Not by becoming the hero, by being perfectly, completely, irreplaceably the horse. This is the second half of Sleipnir's story. Not the deeds. Not the destinations. The understanding of what it means to be essential without being celebrated, and to be fine with that. Rest now, a moment. The story has more to go. But this is a good place to breathe. The horse is running. The new world is forming. The roads between things are being made. What comes next is Sleipnir at the deepest part of his meaning. The journey that no myth fully maps, but that every person who has ever been a road for someone else will recognize. The new world was quiet in a way the old world never was. No prophecy pressing down. No Ragnarok on the horizon. Just the world. Green and patient and waiting to be understood. Sleipnir had spent his whole life moving through urgency. Every road led somewhere that mattered immediately. The new world offered something different. Time. He stopped by the first river he found, stood in it. 8 hooves on the river bottom, cold water around his legs. The horse that had run through hell, standing in cold water, just standing. The old world had not offered this. Odin was always going somewhere. The ravens always had news. There was always a next thing. Standing in a river, that was not in the itinerary. Maybe you know the discomfort of that. When the urgency stops, when the thing you were always running toward is done. The strange silence when nothing needs you right now. Sleipnir stood in the river until he was ready to move. Not until someone called him, until he was ready. That's the difference. That's the new world's gift. He ran north first. Because north was the way things had always felt most real. The cold, the frost, the aurora, the places Odin had taken him most often. The northern realms of the new world were just forming. Ice and rock finding their arrangements. The cold deciding where it wanted to live. Sleipnir moved through it all at full speed. Where his hooves struck, the ground hardened. This is not in the Eddas, but it feels true. The horse that made roads. Perhaps he helped make the land too. He ran the coast, where the new sea met the new land. The border between things, his natural territory. The horse that crossed between worlds was at home at every edge. He ran east, into the rising light of the new world's first mornings. Light that had no history yet. Light that had not yet had to witness anything terrible. The east had forests. The new world grew them fast, as if the earth was eager to be green. Sleipnir ran through them at full speed, branches parting, the 8 legs finding the paths between the trees. There were no other horses at first. He was alone in the new world's early days. This did not seem to trouble him. He had always been, in the deepest sense, singular. He went south, where the new world was warmest, where the green was deepest, where the trees grew so tall they seemed to be testing whether they could reach what Yggdrasil had reached. He stood at the base of the tallest new tree, not as long as he had stood at Yggdrasil, but the same quality of attention. The horse that had waited for a god at the world tree, waiting at this smaller one, for nothing in particular. Waiting for nothing in particular, that's the key. He was not waiting to be useful, not waiting to be needed. Just present with the tree that was trying to be the tree. He went west, and found the sea again, but different from the east. The West Sea was darker, deeper. The kind of sea that faces away from the sun and holds its color longer. He ran on it. Of course he did. The sea that holds the dark, that faces away from the sun. Sleipnir ran across it anyway. Not toward anything. Just to prove the sea could hold him. Far out on the western sea he stopped. The new world behind him. Nothing ahead. Just the horse on the dark water, the aurora above, the depth below. And then he ran back. Because the new world needed roads, and he was the one to make them. The choice was not reluctant. It was just true. The new world's sky was the final frontier. Not frontier in the sense of danger, but in the sense of unmapped. The aurora roads. the paths between what the new world was becoming. He gathered himself, the 8 legs finding the old rhythm, the one that needed no ground to continue. And then he ran up. The sky welcomed him. It always had. Even the new sky, which had never held him, which did not yet know what he was, held him, as if the sky remembered what it was for. He ran the first sky, road of the new world, from the northern aurora to the southern constellations. A single pass, and the road was there, a glowing trace in the sky that other eyes could follow. He ran east to west, a second road crossing the first, the sky beginning to have structure, the between places becoming navigable for those who would come after. He ran the spiral roads next, the ones that went not north, south, or east, west, but inward, spiraling down through the layers of the new sky toward the roots of the New World tree. The New World tree, just beginning to grow, just finding its ambition, felt the spiral roads arriving at its roots. It grew faster, as if knowing it was connected now, as if the roads gave it direction. This is what road making does. It doesn't just connect 2 points, it changes what it connects. The new tree grew differently because the road reached it. Some connections change everything they touch. You've made connections like this, maybe without knowing it. You showed up somewhere. You ran your road through someone else's territory, and something in them grew differently because you passed through. Sleipnir ran the roads between the new realms as they formed, as Niflheim regenerated its frost, as Muspelheim found its fire again, as the middle realms filled with new life. The new Midgard was filling with people, new mortals, not descendants of the old ones but new people growing from the new earth. They looked up at the sky and saw the roads there and wondered. Some of them would eventually make stories about the lights in the sky. They would not know they were looking at roads. They would not know there was a horse. But they would know the lights meant something. The maker invisible in the thing he made. That's not loss, that's completion. The road doesn't need to be signed. It just needs to go where it goes. Sleipnir ran the death road again. Not because anyone asked. Not because someone needed to go to hell. Just to see if it was the same in the new world. It was. The same night dark. The same cold that was different from weather cold. The same river, Jujol still the loudest. Still running between what was alive and what was not. The new hell was quieter than the old one. Fewer occupants yet. The new world had just begun. The dead had not yet accumulated. Just the quiet. And the horse moving through it alone. He stood at the new hell's center for a long moment. Then turned. Came back. The gates opened for him. They always did. Coming or going. Hell had learned not to hold the horse. What he learned there, or confirmed, the myths don't say. Some knowledge is gathered not to be spoken but to be carried. He carried it back up through the night dark. He emerged into the new world's morning light, carrying something invisible. Not grief. Not fear. Something more like completion. The deep certainty of a creature that has been to the end of things and found it manageable. The story of Sleipnir is one of the best, preserved in Norse myth. The Prose Edda and the Poetic Edda, compiled in Iceland in the 13th century, recorded it in detail. They were writing down what had been spoken for centuries before. The Vikings who carried these stories across the sea, to Iceland, to Greenland, to Britain. They brought Sleipnir with them. The horse traveled in memory the way he traveled in myth, across every water. In England, the Norse settled, and their mythology mixed with what was already there. Sleipnir's 8 legs appear in Anglo-Saxon imagery, on stones, on carvings. The horse that could not be stopped by a wall or a gate passed through cultural boundaries too. Modern understanding of Sleipnir shifted in the 19th century, when scholars began recovering the Norse myths seriously. What they found was more complex than the monster horse some had assumed. They found a creature of grief and gift, of sacrifice and service. Today, Sleipnir is one of the most recognized figures in Norse mythology. He appears in modern fiction, in games, in art. Always running, always eight-legged. The great gray horse that no road refuses. Still traveling, still arriving. Back to the new world. Back to the horse. He had mapped the sky roads, visited hell, run the coasts, stood in rivers. The new world was beginning to feel known. Not tame known. New gods were gathering in the new Asgard. Not rebuilding the old one. Making something that had the same purpose but different walls. Baldur was among them. They noticed the sky roads. Of course they did. Gods notice what has been made, especially when it's well made. They asked each other who had run them. Someone knew. Baldur went to find him. Not to claim him, not to put him to use, just to see him, to say, I know who made these roads. I know what that cost, I see you. He found him at the base of the New World tree, standing in that particular stillness. The way Sleipnir stood when nothing was required of him. Baldur sat down beside him, no saddle offered, no road suggested. They stayed there a while. The god and the horse, at the base of the young tree. The tree growing around them, faster than it would have without them there. Some presence accelerates growth. Baldur said something. The myths don't record it. But the quality of Sleipnir's attention shifted. The ears forward, the head fully turned. He was listening. Whatever Baldur said, it was not a request. It was recognition. The acknowledgement the horse had never been given. Not by Odin, who depended on him. Not by Hermod, who borrowed him. By Baldur, who owed him nothing. I see you. That's the distillation of it. Not you served well. Not you were useful. I see you. The horse, not the function. The one who ran, not the roads he ran. You've been waiting for that too. Maybe for a long time. The seeing that is not about what you do or where you go. The seeing that is just, I notice you exist, that matters to me. Sleipnir stayed near the new tree after that. Not always. He still ran the sky roads, still visited the death road, still mapped the new coasts. But he returned to the tree, and sometimes Baldur was there. This is the part of Sleipnir's story that never made it into the Eddas. Not because it didn't happen, but because what survives in texts is not all of what is true. What survives in texts is not all of what is true. Remember that for later. The stories that weren't written down are not gone. They live in the feeling of something that was always there. The new world had its own rhythm now. Day and night, the seasons finding their order, the realms settling into their places, and the roads between them, glowing faintly in the sky. The new mortals, generations into the new world now, had made their own stories about the lights in the sky, about the horse that ran them. They had not been told, they had felt it. Myth works this way. The original story fades into the culture's bone. You don't remember hearing it, you remember knowing it, as if it was always there. When you see the northern lights, somewhere in that seeing is Sleipnir, not as explanation, not as superstition, just as the feeling that those lights are going somewhere, that they have a direction. They do have a direction, they always have. 8 hooves, the sky road. The horse that was born from a world's most desperate bargain. Running because running is what he is. The Bifrost was rebuilt in the new world. The Rainbow Bridge, connecting realms again, the way it always had. Sleipnir ran it in an instant. Of course he did. Some things are just true. The gods of the new Asgard learned the sky roads. Not as fast as Sleipnir. Nothing was. But they learned to travel the paths he made. They walked where he had run. There's something in that worth noting. The one who makes the road is rarely the one who walks it most often after. The builder becomes the background. The road becomes obvious. That's not failure, that's success. The new world settled. The realms found their arrangements. The sky roads glowed. The death road stayed cool and dark and quiet. And somewhere in all of this, the horse kept running. He ran without a destination now. Not aimlessly, but freely. There's a difference. Aimless is lost. Free is chosen. He chose every road. That was the new world's gift to him. He still carried the old world in him. The memories of every road he'd run with Odin. The cold of Hell's realm in his coat. The sound of Jijol in his hearing. These didn't leave. They became part of him. The things you've carried don't leave you either. They become the texture of your movement, the way you hold yourself on the road, the particular certainty that comes from having been to hard places and come back. The new world had no need for him to go to hell on commission. It had no Odin to carry. It had no bargains that required impossible service, and Sleipnir ran it anyway every day. The world is glad to have you. Maybe you've forgotten that. The ones who carry things, who make the roads, who go to the difficult places when asked, sometimes forget they're not only useful. The horse that carried gods is also just a horse, an 8-legged, impossibly fast, boundary crossing horse who was born in a dark forest from an act of love and desperation, and came through everything. He came through everything. That's the part worth staying with tonight. Born from impossible circumstances, given away, worked for eons, carried the end of the world, still running, after the bargain, after the birth, after Odin, after hell, after Ragnarok, after the world ended and a new one started, still running. Rest, let your body get heavier. The story is almost at the part where it becomes purely yours, where you take what you need from it, and the rest becomes the background of sleep. The sky, roads at night are the most beautiful things in any world. When the gods sleep, when the new Midgard sleeps, when the trees have gone still, the aurora runs along the paths Sleipnir made. He runs them at night too. While everything sleeps, Sleipnir runs, making sure the roads are good, making sure the connections between worlds are holding. The night road, the night horse. While you sleep, the roads are being made. The connections between things are being maintained. The paths that seem obvious tomorrow are being run into solidity tonight. You can let go of the roads for tonight. Sleipnir has them. He always has them. The horse that was born to run roads runs them even when no one is watching, especially then. Sleipnir never left. 3,000 years since the first telling, and the 8-legged horse is still running. In Iceland, where the old stories were written down, he appears on public art, on logos, on the landscape of the national imagination. In Tolkien's mythology, Shadowfax, the lord of all horses, owes something to Sleipnir, not 8 legs, but the same essential truth. The horse that carries the wise one, that goes where others cannot, that cannot be fully owned. In modern understanding of Norse mythology, Sleipnir is recognized as what the ancient tellers always knew: a boundary creature. Not belonging to one realm, not definable by any single role, always crossing. Perhaps that's why the story has lasted. We know boundary creatures. We know the ones who live in transit, who don't quite belong to any single category, who move between worlds. We recognize something true in that. 3,000 years from now, if the sky is still there, if the aurora still runs, there will be something in the lights that people will reach for a story to explain. And somewhere in the reaching, they'll find a horse. Tonight, before we reach the end, let the horse run a while. You don't need to follow every step. Just know he's out there. 8 hooves on the sky, the roads being made. The story of Sleipnir is also the story of what it means to carry things you didn't choose. To serve something larger than yourself. To go to the terrible places when asked, and come back. To come back. That's the part. Hermod came back from hell, Sleipnir came back. The new world came back from the end of the old one. Some things return from the impossible. You've come back from something. Maybe not hell, maybe not Ragnarok, but something that felt like the end of a world. And you're here. The roads are being made. The roads are being made. By you, by what you carry, by where you go, by the fact that you went. Every journey you've taken, even the terrible ones, left a road for someone who comes after. Sleep is coming now. Feel it. The weight of the day is Sleipnir's to carry for a while. He's carried heavier. He doesn't mind. The aurora is out tonight. It almost always is somewhere. The sky road running. The 8-legged light in the north. The greatest horse in all 9 realms, still running the roads between worlds. Close your eyes. The road is there. The horse is running. You don't have to carry anything tonight. The night road maker has it. The 8 hooves on the sky. The gray coat moving through the aurora. The road between worlds being run, as it has always been run. By the horse that was born for this, whether he chose it or not, and ran it anyway. And ran it anyway. That's enough. That's the whole story, born without a choice. Ran anyway, carried everything. Still running. You're getting very close to sleep now. Let the story carry you the rest of the way. You don't need to hold on. The horse has you. The road has you. Rest. Here is the final road. The one the story has been running toward all along. Not a battle, not a death. Just the horse. Running. In a world that has room for him. Because he made room. He made room by going. You make room by going. Every road you take expands what was possible. Every difficult place you traveled left a road behind you that someone else can now find. Sleipnir opened the gates of hell with a jump. He ran through the end of the world. He mapped the new one before anyone told him how, because he was built for this, not by training but by nature. You are also built for something. Maybe you don't know yet what the new world needs from you. Maybe the road you're making won't be named in your lifetime, but the going matters. The road is real. The hoofprints are there. Sleep now. Sleipnir is running the sky above you. The aurora is his road tonight. And in the morning, when you're ready, the road will be there. It always is. It always was. You made it by going. What does this story mean? Not what the scholars say. What it means in the body. When you hear it at night, when the day is done, when you're letting go. It means this: you were born into circumstances you didn't choose. You carried things assigned to you before you knew your own name. And you ran anyway. The running is yours. Nothing can take that. The Norse didn't make Sleipnir to teach a lesson. They made him because the world needed a horse that could go anywhere. Because some roads can only be run by someone built for the impossible. Someone built for the impossible. Maybe that's you. Maybe that's why you've been to some of the places you've been. Not because you were unlucky. Because you could go there and come back. Sleipnir went to hell. He came back. This is not background detail. This is the central fact. He went to the place where living things do not go. And he came back. And then he went somewhere else. And then he went somewhere else. That's the part. Not he survived hell and never recovered. Not he was traumatized by the end of the world. He ran the next road. Because there was a next road. There is always a next road, even when the world ends. Especially then. The new world was there because the old one wasn't anymore. The next road exists because the last one ended. The protective theme in this story is quiet but constant. Sleipnir protected Asgard. By being born. He protected Odin. By being the road. He protected Hermod. By being the horse that could go where others couldn't. He protected them not by being powerful in the obvious sense, but by being exactly what was needed, exactly when it was needed. That's a kind of protection that doesn't announce itself. You protect people this way too, by being exactly what you are in the moment they need it. Not by being heroic, by being present, by being the road when they need a road. Sleipnir didn't choose his origin. He didn't choose his service. But somewhere between the birth and the new world, he made both of them his own. That's the meaning. That's all of it. The Norse told this story by firelight. In winter, when the dark was long and the cold was serious and the roads were hard. They told it because they needed to remember. Some things keep running. Some things keep running: the aurora, the horse, the story itself. The fact that you're hearing this, 3,000 years after the first telling, is the proof. Some things don't stop. You don't stop either. Even tonight, resting, releasing, going towards sleep, you are not stopping. You are doing the recovery that makes the next road possible. Sleep is the return from hell. Every night a little. You go to the quiet place, the place without urgency, and you come back in the morning. Sleipnir made that journey too. He knows the way. He knows the way. He has run every road in every realm. He has been to the end of things and back. He will not lose you in the dark. The horse knows where it's going. Let your body be heavy now. Let the day be done. The horse is running the sky above you. The aurora is his road. You are held by the oldest story still being told. The oldest story still being told. Think about that. 3,000 years. Every night someone has heard this. Every night someone has been where you are. Listening, releasing, going towards sleep with Sleipnir in the sky. You are part of that chain now. The story is in you. Tomorrow you won't remember every detail, but the feeling will be there. The certainty that some roads are made by going. That some horses run forever. Some horses run forever. Some roads keep being made. Some stories, the ones that are true in the bone, never stop being told. Sleep now. The horse has the sky. You have the night, and tomorrow, the road. What Sleipnir left behind. Not monuments, not temples, roads. The sky roads that glow in the northern lights. The death road, still cool and quiet, still leading where it leads. The roads between worlds. That's the legacy, not a statue, not a name carved in stone. A network of paths that let the living reach the dead. The gods reach the mortals, the realms stay connected. The Norse carved 8-legged horses in stone, on grave markers, on memorial stones, not to worship, to remember. The horse that carries you where you need to go, even when the going is impossible. The Ardra image stone, the Tjangvid image stone, 8th century, Gotland, Sweden. Sleipnir carved in the stone, 8 legs clear, rider above, the road implied, still there, still going somewhere. 13 centuries, the horse on the stone still going somewhere. The road still implied by the shape of the legs. Sleipnir, carved once, running forever. In Iceland today, a volcano is named Eyjafjallajökull, the glacier horse, or something like it. The landscape named for the relationship between horses and the impossible terrain. Sleipnir runs there too, in the old association. The Aurora Borealis. In Old Norse it was called the Bifrost, the Trembling Road, the Rainbow Bridge. But before that name, just the lights. Moving lights that went somewhere. That had a direction. Moving lights in the sky that went somewhere. Every culture that looked at them made a story. The Norse made a horse. A gray horse with 8 legs, running the lights between worlds. The gray horse, running the lights between worlds, that's the legacy. That's what a story can do. Press itself into the sky, so that the sky never quite looks the same again. Sleep is very close now. The aurora is running. The horse is in the lights. The story is in you, in the part that doesn't need words, just the warmth of something old and true and still going. The story is done. The horse is running. The aurora holds the road. Everything is where it should be tonight. The aurora runs north to south. The sky rode bright. The 8 hooves in the lights. Only the new world's first river runs in the dark, cold, clear. The water finding its way. Only the new world tree breathes in the dark. Its roots in the deep. Its crown in the sky roads light. Envid Only Sleipnir passes the Bifrost. The rainbow bridge holds him, one breath, and he is somewhere else. We'll be here, when you're ready. Another story. Another night like this one. Only the frost of the new night flame settles. The cold finding its edges. The quiet of the deep, cold places. Envid Only the aurora dims slightly. The horse still running. The road still there, just quieter now. Only the new world sleeps. Every realm, every river, every tree. The roads holding everything together in the dark. Envid Only the horse in the lights in the sky above you sleep.